Well, I had a really nice, quiet, uneventful first night at my campsite at Fort McAllister State Park. Even though the sites are pretty close together and not very private with a lot of vegetation between them like I slept great. It was really quiet. Everybody really took that quiet hour after 10 seriously. I didn't hear a peep until morning. And it's a gorgeous drive in and out of the park. I didn't realize how pretty it was and that it was essentially on an island. Really beautiful. I can't wait to explore the park more tomorrow. But for now, it is day 2 in Savannah. I had a really good night's sleep, so I am hopefully ready to explore if the weather lets me. It was supposed to be storming all night and all day long today, so I'm going to take what I can get. Because when I checked the forecast again this morning, it looks more like it might not start getting really ugly until 11 or 12 today. So I'm hoping that I can at least get a few hours of walking and riding the trolley in before it really lets loose. And hopefully it'll just kind of sprinkle on and off and not storm all day, and that it won't get bad until later. Knock on wood, I've been really lucky with the weather so far because it was supposed to rain all day yesterday and I had pretty much great weather. It was like drizzly the first few hours I was here, but not bad at all, and then the sun came out and it cleared up really nicely. So I don't think my luck will hold the whole time, but we're gonna hope that it holds for at least a while today. And if I get really lucky, I am gonna try to do a ghost tour tonight. But like I said, it just depends on the weather. I don't think it'll be very fun doing a walking ghost tour if it is storming. So we'll see, but I am excited to take you guys with me today and see what I can see. As you can tell by my voice, I'm not fully awake yet. The sun just rose a little while ago, so I'm having my first cup of coffee still. When that kicks in, I should get a little more pep in my step. After finding my parking spot and heading out, my plan was to start at the south end of Forsyth Park, make my way through the park, and then just start working through the squares one by one until I hit River Street. I had no idea how long this would take. I was thinking maybe I would get to River Street by around lunch and then just kind of play it by ear from there. As you can see, it is a breathtaking park, and I highly recommend going in the spring. Everything was just so lush and green and just coming into bloom. It was just amazingly beautiful. Now, I was here on a Friday, and it was the Friday before St. Patty's Day. In fact, they were going to be turning the fountain in Forsyth Park green later on that day. However, the weather was pretty bad, raining on and off all day long, so I really don't know if this was typical for a Friday morning or not, but I did get started pretty early in the morning, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that there was not much traffic on the streets, and I was able to walk around without really having to fight many crowds. Each square is so unique and different in its own right, but they're all just equally beautiful, and I love the history in each square, and you can really tell the city takes a lot of pride in it. It's so clean and beautiful, and just, it was such a pleasure walking around. The way the city and the squares are laid out is very pedestrian friendly. It's very easy to safely walk from square to square downtown. So the safety was not an issue at all for me. Like, I was maybe a little bit nervous about going in. I wasn't sure how I would feel walking or navigating the whole downtown district solo without having really been familiar with the area. But I was happy to discover that even for somebody directionally challenged like me, it was easy enough for me to have an idea of where I was and where I was going, and to navigate from square to square with relatively little issue. And as you can see, there is plenty to look at on your walk. I mean, each building is just so beautiful, and there are plaques and signage for each of the historic places so that you know exactly what you're looking at and get a little bit of background information on each site. However, one thing that I would definitely recommend doing, especially if you're planning on taking the trolley tour anyways, which is what I ultimately ended up doing here today, what I would definitely recommend is to do the hop-on, hop-off trolley tour, and to do that first before you walk around or navigate any of the sites around the historic district yourself. This will be so helpful to you because it will drive you around the entire city area of the main sites that you're going to want to see, and you'll get a really good idea of where everything is located and how the city and the squares are laid out, as well as get a lot of background information in the process. So it's a great way to kind of make mental notes of what you might want to revisit or what seems like you'd want to spend more time there later. And then that way, when you're ready to walk around the city or kind of tour it on your own pace, you'll know exactly where to go, and you'll already have a lot of background information on what you're looking at before you even get there. One thing I learned during my trolley tour later on here that I found really interesting was that all of these memorial statues were formed or built or constructed facing their enemy. So for instance, if the general that was being memorialized in that particular square defeated Florida, then they were positioned to be facing Florida. And I just thought that was really neat, so I wanted to share that little tidbit. But those are the types of things that you will learn if you do one of the trolley tours there. And here we're approaching St. John's Church. And if I'm getting my facts straight here, I learned on the trolley tour that it was this church that has the tallest steeple in Savannah. I do have to admit, the one thing that I am bummed about is that I did not get a chance to take a ghost tour this time, which I really wanted to do. It's been on my bucket list for years to do a haunted tour in Savannah, but the weather was just so iffy this time. I didn't want to risk it, and it turned out to be a good thing because it ended up storming most of that evening, so I definitely would have gotten quite soggy had I been on it. But this is where most of the ghost tours would have met. And so many sites like this one are familiar because they make little appearances in so many movies throughout history. So it was really kind of neat to see certain landmarks and historic sites that I recognized from cinema. Here we're approaching Chippewa Square, which almost everybody would recognize from the movie Forrest Gump. In fact, this sign that I'm walking up to right now is the exact location of the bench in Forrest Gump, where Forrest sat and told his story to everybody that would sit down next to him. You could easily make a day of just walking up and down from Forsyth Park to River Street and back, and just taking your time to take in all of the sights, read all the signs, and just really absorb all of the surroundings, especially this time of year with the azaleas and the bright green resurrection fern. Just such a stunning area to walk around in. And this here is First Baptist Church, which is the oldest church in the city of Savannah. Later, towards the end of the video, I'm going to post a copy of the map that I received on my trolley tour. It does show all of the trolley sites as well, which may be helpful to you, but I found that map to be the most helpful, hands down, of any map I looked up ahead of time. I think that map, coupled with doing the trolley tour ahead of time, would give you a really good idea of where everything is, and then you would know exactly where you want to go back to see specific sites like this that you may not get a chance to really look at as much as you want to during the trolley tour while you're just driving by. And here we're approaching a memorial for Johnny Mercer. And before I knew it, I was approaching River Street already. This is the City Hall building, and once you approach City Hall, you are at the block right before you get to River Street. One thing I really enjoyed about approaching the River Street portion of the city was these little bridges. There are multiple bridges positioned throughout this portion of the district that you have to cross over to get to the portion that is right up against the river, and then you actually have to take the stairs down to get to the river level here. But I think that these little crossovers are such a unique and pretty way to get across. There are tons of restaurants and bars and shops in this area here, so there's definitely plenty of places that you can relax and pass the time. One word of warning when it comes to these historic steps: they are steep and they are hard and uneven, so definitely be careful and be prepared with the proper footwear. Initially, my plan had been to have lunch here. However, I drastically overestimated how long it would take me to arrive at River Street on foot, and I got here around 9 or 9:30 in the morning. So it was too early to eat lunch yet. But on the plus side, nobody else had really shown up yet, so I did get to tour River Street and kind of walk up and down along the river and take in the sights without having a lot of people around. I understand it can get quite crowded later in the day, especially on a Friday when I was there, so it may have worked out in my favor, and I did end up finding a really good spot to eat lunch at anyways, so I think it all worked out okay. And here we are approaching the Georgia Queen, which is a ferry that still runs daily. You can purchase a ticket to have breakfast or dinner on the ferry, or just take a ferry ride up and down the river if you'd like. It was here at a little stand on the side of River Street that I ended up purchasing my hop-on, hop-off trolley ticket for the day. Typically, that's the type of thing that I would order online or book online ahead of time since I'm such a planner, but with the forecast being what it was and with it potentially raining all day long, I wasn't sure I would be able to get in the trolley ride, so I kind of wanted to just play it by ear. And once I had made it to River Street so early in the morning, I figured I still had a few hours before the rain was going to start in earnest, and that would be enough time to take the trolley tour. So luckily I was able to get my ticket right there without having to go too far out of my way on foot. And once I was done walking around River Street, I was able to walk over to the last stop and get picked up to start the tour. At this point, I started to turn back and wander towards where I was going to be picking up the trolley, which was going to be back up at the street level. So I found another set of the historic steps to walk up very carefully. And I was off to give my feet a break and head to lunch. By this time, I had decided, since one of the trolley stops was at the historic Pirate House, which is also still a restaurant to this day, that would be the perfect spot to have lunch. It's reported to be one of the most haunted places in the city, and I had wanted to take some time to check it out anyways. So I decided it would be the perfect opportunity to take the first half of the trolley tour to right about the halfway point, get off at the Pirate House, where I would have a nice, enjoyable lunch before it got crowded. I ended up arriving right at 11 a.m. when it opened for lunch, so I had the room almost to myself. And then once I was done eating, I would hop back on the trolley to finish my tour off. I highly recommend a stop in here even if you don't want to eat, but this was my first time at a sit-down restaurant again since early of 2020, so I thoroughly enjoyed having a nice beer, reading the history of the pirate house and the different ghost stories, and wondering if I might be joined by a little ghosty friend, which I was not. But I did really enjoy my she crab soup, as well as, oh my gosh, their biscuits and the cornbread were delicious. I ended up ordering the salmon BLT, which was really good. Unfortunately, I forgot that I would not be able to bring my leftovers with me since I was going to be taking the tour and walking around for a while still, so I did have to leave a bit of it behind. But I enjoyed walking around the pirate house and ended up getting outside right before the trolley showed up to continue on my tour. But not without a stop to the gift shop upstairs first, of course.
Medicine derivative of the West African culture. These houses are original colors and they won't let them change it because they're real. Unlike, our other sister city up in South Carolina. But it's kind of neat. So that street wasn't here until 1910. All purchases, all the merchants were in. 7 women in 1954 wanted developers to save that house. Our historical society since 1954 has been saving houses ever since. If you notice the dual staircase of that house over there, that's because in the 17 and 1800s, if you saw a woman's ankle, you had a nope, not happening. So he sold it. But that brings me up. Anybody been to New Orleans? Okay. What's the difference between New Orleans and Savannah? There's 3. Now, the house over there, next to a brick house. Can you go around again for me? Just so I can finish. He had a plantation, it was free, so he figured I'd use it. But he knew it had red bugs or chiggers in it, so please don't touch it, right? So he bought the Spanish moss and putting it and stuffing it in the seats as is. Didn't work. So you can imagine in the early 1900s, people scratching places they weren't supposed to be scratching, right? It's the first American auto recall in history. Is that wild? And it's all because they out and dance and party and have their times. It was kind of a nice place to be at the. It's called the Freemasons Hall. There's and this is over here, the locksmith. You can still get a key made there. It's kind of cool, isn't it? This is pretty good Italian food. It's really nice. Plus, it has a place that Oglethorpe laid out. Now, this is university in the 1700s, and guess what? I find it kind of interesting. Now, Oglethorpe Square was a very late to what we are, and I respect that. This is a pretty good seafood place, but if you really want to get something good, they have a little Asian American place just on the other side. It's pretty good. Just it's called the Duck Diner. They have about 3 or 4 restaurants here, and it's really good. And anybody remember it's butter with butter?
This is the map that I referenced earlier in the video. It is so helpful. I parked right below Forsyth Park there at the very bottom, and City Hall is there at the river at the very top. So that kind of gives you an idea of the layout of the squares as well as all of the different trolley stops. I did hop off the trolley at this point since I had completed the tour all the way, and I wanted to double back and hit the Cathedral Basilica of St. John the Baptist before leaving, because I had heard that they referred to it as the Sistine Chapel of Georgia and that it was a must-see, and wow, they were not lying. This was definitely one of the highlights of my walking tour. This footage really does not do it justice. I swear I had to pick my jaw up off the floor several times while I was walking around in here, so I highly recommend this as a stop while you are walking around the city. They do still do services on Sundays. However, if you tour the rest of the week, you are free to go in. I believe they open at 9 in the morning. It might have been before that. It's not 24 hours though, so double check the hours before you visit. And there is no charge or admission or anything like that. You're free to just walk in and out. I believe they do tours as well. I'm not really sure about the details on those though. One thing the city of Savannah is absolutely great for if you want more information is tours. They have so many different types of tours available. So I highly recommend looking online at what tours are offered while you're going to be there to see what the best fit for you is going to be. But I would not miss at least doing one. I'm so glad I did the trolley tour. For those of you familiar with Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, this is the house where the murder took place. So of course I had to take a quick stop there as well. And my last stop of the day was to the Candler Oak, which, thanks to the trolley tour, I was able to find on foot later on the way back to my van. It's located right on the northern perimeter of Forsyth Park, which brought me back to my van and wrapped up my wonderful day touring the city. Well, that was an absolutely wonderful day exploring downtown historic Savannah. I got to cross off every major thing I wanted to see while I was out there, and I am so thankful that the weather cooperated again, because literally less than 5 to 10 minutes after I made it back to my car a little while ago and started heading back to camp, the skies opened up on me. So I would have been soaked if I would have stayed any longer, and I think it's kind of supposed to storm on and off the rest of the night, so I think I'm just gonna have a relaxing night at camp and just kind of relax and hopefully not get too wet. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna get to do a ghost tour this time, but I will definitely be back to cross that off my list. I just did not want to risk it with the weather being the way it was, and I think I made the right call, because it's definitely started deteriorating in the last hour, and I just checked the forecast and it looks like it's just going to get worse the rest of the night. So I don't think walking around would have been a great idea tonight. But I did get to listen in on some of the ghost tours in the Bonaventure Cemetery yesterday while I was wandering around, so I guess I can kind of sort of give it a half a check mark for now.